I think the fighting back is hugely important. We're seeing thousands of people currently leaving the Labour Party. We can debate, we have different views on that issue, on that panel, should we stay or should we go? I think if we stay, we fight for sure. There's no point staying and keeping quiet and accepting that we cannot be in a room in an online meeting with Jackie Walker or Tony Greenstein, unless we're prepared to say that. I think there's a very little point in staying in the Labour Party. But there's also Labour Left Alliance, Labour Against the Witch Hunt, Chris Williamson's resistance movement. I think there are things comrades should join. The worst thing that could happen is now the hundreds of thousands who joined the Labour Party simply dropping out into atomization and becoming disorganized, which would be a huge problem. The next speaker is David Miller, who's been on the receiving end as well as so many of us, and who I believe was suspended, was then reinstated, but then again I think left the Labour Party recently. Hello, David.
Good evening. Yeah, it's slightly longer than that. So I was suspended, then reinstated, then I had a complaint taken against me, which was found to be not founded, and then I was suspended, and then I resigned. So it was a little bit longer. But yeah, this is happening to a lot of people, and it will happen to a lot more. The fact that Brighton and Hove Council has now lost its Labour majority to the Greens on the basis that 3 councillors have been suspended by the party is another extraordinary effect of the ongoing witch hunt. The party is quite prepared to lose councils on the basis of suspending people for what will turn out to be, I am sure, transparently false allegations. And I make that kind of statement in full cognizance of Jenny Formby's position inside the party. If you read in the leaked report, her statement on page 586, she says, making generalized blanket statements that tarnish all allegations of anti-Semitism as smears, I'm sure no one's done that, or as politically motivated, is deeply unhelpful to the cause of eradicating anti-Semitism where it does exist within the movement. Such statements divide and polarize people who should be brought together in constructive dialogue. I think that's a real indication of the problematic way in which the Corbyn-led party under Jenny Formby, when she took over as General Secretary, handled the anti-Semitism issue. And that was, to put it very briefly, that they adopted the witch hunt. They continued to push forward the witch hunt inside the party. Rather than taking an evidence-based approach, they decided that what was going on here was people who had genuine grievances, perhaps mistaken, but genuine grievances about members of the party, and we should engage them in constructive dialogue. And of course, there is no constructive dialogue with the Zionist movement. The Zionist movement isn't interested in dialogue, in truth, in finding out how best to tackle anti-Semitism. And that is a fundamental mistake and a fundamental error for the Labour Party, for someone like Jenny to make, someone who has a long, proud history of Palestine solidarity activism. I think that in the end, that's where we've got to. We've got to the position where under Corbyn, under Jenny Formby, the leadership of the party was at the forefront of taking forward the witch hunt. So it wasn't just a question of the Zionist movement, of the trolls, of the JLM, of Labour Against Anti-Semitism, and Nasher and all of that lot, backed, of course, by the Ministry of Strategic Affairs in Israel. It wasn't just a question of them, it was that it had been taken into the consciousness, the very consciousness of the leadership of the Labour Party. And of course, you see in the Labour leaked report, if you've read through quite a lot of it, I haven't read all of it yet, but I have read some key bits. And there's a bit where they discuss the people that they took on to be in charge of anti-Semitism investigations, one of whom is a former member of the Alliance for Workers' Liberty, well-known faction, and the other one says in a long passage in the report, which he himself must have written, that he learnt about left anti-Semitism from reading a book by Dave Rich of the Community Security Trust, an organisation which has been at the forefront of pursuing the witch hunt, a group which is unable to distinguish between anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism, which purposefully blurs together those two concepts in order to pursue the left. That's been its raison d'etre from the very beginning, since it was created in 1994, and indeed even before that, the previous organizations which became the Community Security Trust. So the idea that people like that should be engaged in constructive dialogue is a fantasy. These are people who must only be faced and defeated. They are supporters of Israel, of the racist policies of the Israeli government, and of course of the racist foundation of the Israeli state, founded, of course, as we all know, on ethnic cleansing and settler colonialism. So I think that perhaps, I mean, maybe I hadn't realized this, but maybe other comrades hadn't realized this, the rot had gone so far as this, but reading the leaked Labour report, one sees that, it was Corbyn himself, he went along with that, Jenny Formby, McDonnell, all of the leadership who went along with essentially a Zionist approach to dealing with anti-Semitism. And that when I first sort of realized that, I was shocked, perhaps not that surprised, but shocked that they had gone so far, because these are people who all their lives, as Chris has said, in the campaign group, had been involved in Palestine solidarity work. No doubt they still will be. But I think that was for me the key problem with which was brought out in the Labour anti-Semitism report. And where are we now? We're in a position which is way worse than when Jenny Formby was in charge, and will get much worse. There are proud Zionists in the leadership office of Keir Starmer. He himself, of course, described himself in similar terms. And there will never be a possibility of engaging in proper Palestine solidarity work inside the Labour Party now, until or unless these people are removed from the party. And the prospect of that at present, I think everyone would agree with me, seems rather remote. So the question is what we do about this. And I don't want to, divide people. Of course, people have different views on this, but it seems to me clear that we cannot win this argument inside the party. And there is the need for movements, perhaps new parties outside the Labour Party, which need to be built. These are not easy matters. The history is not propitious. The way in which the left has fallen out with itself and amongst itself in the last 10 years since the Iraq War or so, it does not give great cause for confidence, but it's the only option, it seems to me. And I wanted to put that out there as what seems to me to be the only possibility. There is, of course, much we can do to engage in Palestine solidarity work, as many people are doing, but also we must, of course, engage the enemy in this, which is not just, of course, the British government and US imperialism, but the Zionist movement. The Zionist movement and the Israeli government are the enemy of the left, the enemy of world peace, and they must be directly targeted. And I know people say we must just engage in Palestine solidarity work. Yes, of course we must, but let's be clear, that's not enough. In order for the Palestinians to win, Zionism as a philosophy, as an idea, as an ideology, must be defeated. And that seems to me to be the clarity which the current historical moment gives us. I don't think I need to say much more than that. I'm happy to answer questions when they come around.
Brilliant. I think you made some very strong points on the nature of appeasement and its utility, and it doesn't work. I do wonder sometimes what strategy Corbyn and his allies had, if they thought once they're in number 10, that's when they stop trying to appease the right and fight back. It is a real question. I don't understand what their strategy is. I'm not sure they did.